Nick Young is the name of this person. He comes from a rich family, which is why people call him Crazy Rich. His family has been rich for a long time and lives in Singapore. Nick Young's family runs a lot of different kinds of businesses. Nick Young, who is handsome and smart, is also very proud of his mother, Alina Young. In Nick's eyes, Alina is a role model. She always wants the best for herself and her family. In 1995, Alina, her son Nick, and her other 2 children were seen in a hotel lobby in London. When they got to the front desk, their clothes were wet from the rain. She asked to be taken to the room she had reserved, but the hotel clerk said in a sarcastic way that Alina had not made a reservation. The hotel manager even told her that their room was full, which made her feel even worse. Alina asked nicely to use the phone so she could talk to her husband. The hotel didn't even do what was asked of it. She was ignored and kicked out of the hotel until the owner of the hotel came down to talk to her. The hotel owner greeted her warmly, which surprised and confused the staff. It was found out that the Young family had bought the hotel. The hotel is now owned by Alina. When that happened, everyone at work was very shocked. Nick was even more proud of his mother because she did something that didn't make him look bad. Nick is now an adult and lives alone in America. Rachel Chu is the name of the girl he likes. Rachel works at New York University as a professor of economics. They had been dating for a year, but she didn't know that Nick was the son of Singapore's richest man. She even thinks Nick is poor because he often asks for treats when he hangs out and used Rachel's Netflix account that day when they were at their usual hangout spot. Nick wanted to take Rachel to Singapore because one of his good friends there, Colin, is getting married. Nick wants Rachel to go to the wedding of his friend Colin with him. They decided to go to Singapore in the end. It turned out that a woman at the table next to them had been listening in on their conversation. She knew Nick because she was also in the same group of rich Asian people as Nick. She then took secret pictures of Nick and Rachel and told her friend what she had done. Word got around fast among the rich. Everyone Nick knows wants to know more about Rachel. Many people think that Rachel must also be a mixed girl. The point is that Rachel became a big deal among the crazy rich people in Asia. When Alina heard this, she called Nick right away. She told Rachel that the house was being fixed up, so she couldn't spend the night there. Nick tried to act calm even though he knew that his mother had turned down Rachel's visit on purpose. Rachel showed Nick what they were going to eat on the plane while they were at the airport. Suddenly, the flight attendant sent them to the first-class passenger. Rachel thought there was a problem because she thought they wouldn't be able to pay. But while Rachel was happy and enjoying first grade, she had a sudden thought that Nick might actually be rich. Rachel wasn't that interested in Nick's treasure. She was more interested in his family, so Nick told her about them to make her feel better. Nick's grandmother, whose name was Amma, raised him. Alistair, Eddie, and Astrid, who are his cousins, were all close to him. Alistair works in the Taiwanese movie business, and his girlfriend, Kitty, is an artist. Eddie works in Hong Kong as a banker. He's got a wife and 3 kids. Astrid, on the other hand, is a housewife who likes to give to charity. Michael is her husband's name, and they have a child together. Rachel felt ready to meet Nick's family after hearing that story. Rachel had no idea what was in store for her. Ahead, when they got to the Singapore airport, Colin and his future wife, Amenta, were there to meet them. During dinner, Rachel has fun with Nick's friends. Before her wedding, Amenta asked Rachel to come to her bachelorette party. The next day, Rachel went to see Peek, an old college friend. Rachel was shocked to see that Peek when she got to her house. Lynn was also born into a big family. Rachel was warmly welcomed by the Peek Lynn family, and they asked her to join them for dinner. Rachel told us that her boyfriend had invited her to go to Singapore. When the Peek Lynn family found out that Rachel's boyfriend is Nick Young, they were all shocked. Be shocked. A fact finally revealed. Peek Lens said that Nick was not only rich, but very rich. Astrid, on the other hand, is seen buying jewelry, and when she gets home, she tells her roommates to hide everything she bought. Astrid didn't want her husband to know because Michael always brought up their different social status. Michael comes from a normal family that isn't rich. Even though he often feels small in front of his wife, Astrid always tried to make him feel better about himself. That evening, Rachel and Peek Lynn go to a party at Nick's grandmother's house. When she saw Nick's house, she was even more shocked. It turns out that Nick really is wealthy. His house and yard are so big that they look like a palace. Nick told all of his siblings, and especially his mother, about Rachel. When Alina meets Rachel, she tries to stay away from her. She didn't talk much at all. She asked Rachel where she was born. Rachel's mom used to be a waitress, and she raised Rachel all by herself. Her education was low, which made Alina think even less of Rachel. When Rachel met her grandmother, she was warmer than her mother had been. Then, Amma invites Rachel and her family to a dim sum making party. Rachel felt a little better when she heard that. While the party was going on, Astrid saw a message on her husband's cell phone by accident. She finds out that Michael is going out with another woman in the end. The bachelorette party happened the next day. In a helicopter, the boys are going somewhere. Bernard Tai, one of their annoying friends, is in charge of Colin's bachelorette party. It looks like the party was on a ship in the middle of the ocean. While Colin was alone at the party, he was entertained by a lot of women. Nick tells Rachel that he loves her and wants to marry her. Colin told Nick to think about what would happen if he chose that path. Nick has to stay in Singapore to run the family business while Rachel works in the US. Also, people's social standing can be a problem. The event was held on a private island by Amenta. There, Rachel meets Amanda, who used to date Nick. Amanda was nice and friendly at first, but it turned out that she made Rachel feel bad about being Nick's girlfriend. Amanda and her other friends even came up with a bad plan. When Rachel and Astrid went back to the hotel room, Rachel found a dead fish with blood on the bed. On the window, there was also a sign making fun of Rachel. Rachel knew that Amanda was trying to make her feel scared. Rachel stopped Astrid from calling the hotel clerk because she didn't want to make Amanda and her friend feel good about themselves. Rachel finally got clean with the help of Astrid. They hung out on the beach after burying the dead fish with Astrid. Rachel found out from Astrid that her husband had been cheating on her. Rachel tried to make Astrid feel better. Rachel has to see Nick's family again at the dim sum making event after she gets back from the bachelorette party. Nick's mother is there, too, and Rachel likes the ring that Nick's mother is wearing. Alina makes fun of Rachel even as she makes dim sum. Nick's grandmother was there, and her presence cooled things down a bit. Grandma said that Rachel's face looked better during the day when she saw her. Rachel, who was upset by what Alina said, started to feel better about herself about halfway through the show. Rachel goes to the bathroom, but while she's there, she gets lost on the stairs. She talked to Alina, and that's how Rachel found out that Alina's husband's family didn't fully accept her. Alina said that joining this family meant making a big sacrifice. She also said that Rachel wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. Rachel met Peek Lin when she got back from the dim sum making event. As a good friend, she told him everything that had happened before. Peek Lin made Rachel feel better. She is also willing to help Rachel get dressed for Colin's wedding. Her goal is for Rachel to look beautiful, especially in front of Alina. The wedding of Colin was a lot of fun. Many reporters waited in front of the location for the guests and tried to get pictures of them all. Rachel looked very elegant and beautiful when she got to the place. Amanda and her friend both looked upset when they saw Rachel. This made Rachel feel better about herself. Astrid is still in the car with Michael, driving to the wedding site. Astrid was upset that Michael said he couldn't go to their son's wedding. This made Astrid remember that her husband had been cheating on her. Even so, Astrid didn't finish it right away. She wanted to wait until after the party to finish it. Michael, on the other hand, talks in a high voice because he thinks Astrid always cares about what other people think. He was tired of being looked down on because he wasn't from a well-known family. Michael finally got out of the car and left Astrid crying by herself back at the wedding site. Rachel, who couldn't sit with Mick's family, ended up in the front row where she talked to everyone. Mick, who stood back and watched, was impressed by how well Rachel seemed to fit in. Colin said Nick was fortunate. Rachel didn't give up on Nick's family easily, it turned out. When Nick's respected grandmother showed up out of the blue, everyone was surprised. In fact, she was never at the wedding besides when her family was there. Astrid's grandmother walked with her and held her hand. It turned out that Astrid's grandmother had gone with her on purpose so that Michael's absence wouldn't be the main topic of conversation. Money is not everything, the grandmother seemed to say. The most important and main thing is still family. Before Amanda went up to the altar, there was a wedding procession. Suddenly, a stream of water came out of nowhere and went up to her knees as a decoration. Amanda and her group walked down the aisle without shoes. In the evening, there was a party to keep the event going. During the event, Rachel and Nick had a private conversation with Rachel's grandmother and Alina. They both agreed that Rachel shouldn't be there. It turns out that Alina's paid detective gave her information about Rachel's family. If Rachel's dad was still alive, that is. Rachel is thought to have told lies to everyone because she didn't tell the truth about her past. Rachel just found out all of these things as well, and she is still in shock after learning the truth about him. Rachel was put in an even worse position. Alina said that they couldn't be related to a bad family like Rachel's. Rachel answered in a proud way that they were, and then she just walked away. Nick tries to catch up with Rachel, but the party is so crowded that he can't find her. Rachel finally made it to Peek Lin and spent a few days at her house. There, she just sleeps and thinks about other things, like a sad person. Her heart is hurt, of course, and also, Rachel is confused about how to respond to new information about her own family, and she also feels like she is being put down. Rachel doesn't want to get out of bed until she hears that her mother has come from the United States to see her. Rachel asked her mother right away about her father. Her mother told her the truth at last. She said that her ex-husband used to hit her and their children a lot. Rachel's mom gets help from her friends a lot, and in the end, Secret falls in love with both of them. Because her mother was afraid of being tortured, she got pregnant from that relationship, and Rachel was born. Rachel's mother decided to go to America by herself when she was pregnant. She also hasn't talked to Rachel's real father because she's afraid her ex-husband will find out. When Rachel heard all of this, she felt bad and guilty for her mother. She thought her mother had done a lot to help her. Rachel then told her that she and Nick wanted to break up. But Rachel's mother told her to think it over again. Nick and Rachel talk about their problems the next day when they get together. When they saw each other again, Nick was quick to say sorry to Rachel. He also asked Rachel to marry him right there. Despite loving Nick, Rachel decides to reject his proposal. Rachel met Alina the day after he asked her to marry him. They were both playing mahjong in a gambling house. Rachel asked Alina why she didn't like her in the first place. Alina told us about a word in Chinese that means our people and is called tequila. Rachel, on the other hand, isn't like them. This isn't because Rachel or her family wasn't rich. Rachel wasn't one of them because she was from the United States. Rachel said that happiness was the most important thing in her defense. Alina stays true to her beliefs, though, and Rachel says that Nick asked her out yesterday, but she said no. Rachel didn't want to lose any of her family members, especially her mother. After she said everything, she chose to let Nick go. Rachel abandoned Alina. Rachel's mother was waiting for her at the table next door. They leave with their pride intact. Even if life is hard, the heart must always be full. Rachel gets ready to go back to America Peak at Lynn's house. Lynn is happy with what Rachel did. Nick called out to Rachel while she was on the plane with her mother. Rachel and her mom were both surprised. Nick tried to get Rachel to believe that he loved her. Rachel wasn't sure at first, but as soon as she saw the ring Nick brought to propose to her, she knew it was Alina's. This meant that Nick had Alina's permission to ask her to marry him. Rachel finally said yes to the offer. Rachel was happy to be with the person she loved at last. But she was even happier because Nick's family said it was okay and the movie was over.